Okay, so, hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are looking into, this idea that keeps popping up more and more lately, which
Hmm.
is, you know, could gold or, maybe other asset-backed currencies
Yeah.
actually like replace the US dollar and the euro
Yeah.
as the like top global currencies?
Yeah.
Like, is that really a possibility? And we've got some sources here that dive into all sorts of angles on this,
Hmm.
from like current economic, kind of weaknesses to
Yeah.
the whole history of gold and, some future what ifs.
Right.
So yeah, let's just get right into it.
I think it's really fascinating to look at this now
Mm-hmm.
because, your sources really highlight how strong the dollar and euro are right now.
Right.
But also, like you said, there's all this kind of pressure building up
Yeah, yeah.
underneath the surface.
And the sources show like the dollar, it's still like the king of the hill, right?
Yeah.
Almost 60% of global reserves.
Yeah.
And it's like the default for trade. Especially in North America, it's like 96%.
Yeah. It's huge.
And the euro's no slouch either.
It's a strong second for sure.
But then you look a little deeper,
Right.
and the sources point out all these vulnerabilities. Like in the
Mhm.
US, you have the federal deficit
Yeah.
and
You got it.
entitlement programs. And then in the Eurozone, it's like
Yeah.
all these different economies trying to work together.
Right. And their debt markets are so fragmented.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
And then
two
on top
things.
of that, you've got like
Right.
the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank,
Yeah.
kind of going their own ways on policy.
Different directions sometimes. And that just adds to the instability.
So it's not just stuff happening within those big economies.
Hmm.
The sources point out all this geopolitical stuff too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, tensions rising,
Yeah.
countries looking for alternatives to the dollar,
Yeah, they don't want to be so reliant on it anymore.
especially for trade.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And that's a key takeaway from your sources is how the U.S. has used the dollar,
Yeah.
to put sanctions in place, particularly since that Russia-Ukraine conflict
Right.
started.
Right.
And that's really pushed some countries over the edge.
Yeah.
They're actively looking for other ways to do business.
Yeah, like they're getting nervous, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's like too much power in one currency.
And so we're seeing this kind of
Yeah.
fragmentation of the global economy is splitting up into these different blocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
With, their own ways of trading, their
Yeah.
own financial systems.
Okay, so that's like the push for something new.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then all is that something new?
Right.
And, one of the big ones that keeps coming up is gold.
Gold, yeah. The classic.
Right. Like we've had gold standards in the past.
We have, and your sources do a good job of, reminding us about those times.
Yeah.
Like the classical gold standard, and then later on, the Bretton Woods system, where the dollar was actually pegged to gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because, like,
Yeah.
gold has this long history, right?
It does.
Like going way back of being a reliable way to trade.
Mm-hmm. A store of value,
Yeah, people trust it.
right? Like intrinsically.
Yeah, okay, so, but like practically, how would we even do a gold standard today?
Right.
Like, we're not going to be walking around with, bags of gold coins, are we?
Well, the sources talk about this idea of a gold bullion standard.
Okay.
So basically, central banks around the world would agree to exchange their currencies
Mm-hmm.
for gold at a fixed price.
Oh, so like a set price.
Yeah, a set price. So
Yeah.
everyone's on the same page.
Okay.
But for that to work, you need every country
Yeah.
to agree on what that price is going to be.
Okay.
And they would all need to have a lot of gold.
Oh, yeah, that's a big if.
It's a huge hurdle.
Yeah.
A lot of gold reserves.
Okay, so one of the big arguments for gold is that it could
Yeah.
like help with inflation,
Right. Control inflation.
keep prices stable, but our sources also point out
Some pretty big downsides.
yeah, there are definitely trade-offs.
What are some of those?
Well, the sources are pretty clear that,
Yeah.
a gold standard really ties the hands of central banks.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's an economic downturn,
Right.
they don't have as much flexibility to respond.
Oh, so it's like less room to maneuver?
Yeah, they can't just print more money
Okay.
or adjust interest rates like they can now.
Yeah.
And historically, gold standards have actually been linked to recessions.
Oh, wow. So it could make things worse.
It could, yeah. And plus,
Yeah.
the price of gold itself can go up and down quite a bit.
Right. So it's not like a perfect stable thing either.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let's say, just for argument's sake,
Mm-hmm.
the dollar and the euro get replaced by gold. Like, what did that even look like?
Well, you'd see a massive change in international trade, for one.
Okay.
Like big transactions would probably start happening in gold
Oh, wow.
instead of dollars or euros,
Yeah.
and investment would pour into gold.
Everyone would want a piece of it.
Right.
And global supply chains,
Yeah.
which are so reliant on
Yeah.
the dollar and euro right now,
Yeah.
they would face a ton of uncertainty.
Right.
Like, who knows what would happen there?
Total chaos.
Could be, yeah. And then you've got countries with huge gold reserves.
Yeah.
They'd gain a lot of power
Right.
on the world stage,
Mm-hmm.
while countries with a lot of debt,
Oh, right.
they could be in real trouble.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sources also warn about potential deflation.
Deflation.
Yeah, which is basically like prices going down.
Oh.
And that sounds good at first,
Yeah.
but it can actually be really bad for the economy.
Oh, wow.
It can stall things out, and that's because the supply of gold
Yeah.
doesn't grow as fast as the economy does.
Right. So it's a limited resource.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, even just getting enough gold and
Right.
like spreading it around the world seems like a logistical nightmare.
A massive undertaking, yeah.
Yeah.
You've got the limited supply.
Mm.
The fact that it's not evenly distributed,
Yeah.
those are huge hurdles.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
on top of that, how do you even set a stable price for gold,
Right.
given how much it's gone up and down in the past?
Right. It's so volatile.
Yeah, it is. And then, on top of all that,
Yeah.
central banks lose a lot of their tools
Right.
to manage their economies.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So there are a lot of challenges there.
Okay. So maybe gold isn't the answer.
Yeah, maybe not a full return to gold.
Right. What else did the sources talk about?
Well, they highlight a few other possibilities.
Yeah.
Like, we are seeing some countries start to use other national currencies more,
Mm-hmm.
like the Chinese renminbi.
Right.
But even that has limitations. Like,
Yeah.
China has these capital controls.
What does that mean?
It means they restrict how much money can flow in and out of the country.
Oh, so it's not like totally free?
Not totally free.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got this whole new world of
Yeah.
central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs.
Yeah, I guess CBDCs.
Yeah, like the EU is working on a digital euro,
Mm-hmm.
and those could really change things.
Yeah. How so?
Well, they could make transactions more efficient
Okay.
and give governments new ways to implement policies.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also concerns about stability and privacy.
Right. It's all so new.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know how it's all going to play out.
And then there are those private stable coins.
Right. The stable coins.
Yeah, some of them are even linked to assets like gold.
Yeah. They're trying to offer stability
Mm-hmm.
within the crypto world.
Yeah, which can be pretty wild.
Definitely. And a lot depends on how governments decide to regulate all this.
Right. It's the Wild West out there.
It is a bit, yeah.
Okay, so let's imagine for a second
Mm-hmm.
that there is some kind of major currency shift.
Right.
Like, what happens to the geopolitical landscape?
Oh, things would get shaken up for sure.
Yeah.
Like in a gold-backed system, countries with a lot of gold,
Yeah.
they'd suddenly have a lot more power.
Right. Yeah.
You can see new economic alliances forming.
Oh, based on currency?
Yeah, like countries that use the same currency,
Yeah. Yeah.
teaming up.
Yeah.
And that could even lead to tensions.
Oh, between different blocks.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then you have groups like the BRICS nations.
Right.
They've been trying to move away from the dollar.
Yeah, de-dollarization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a shift like this would have a huge impact on their efforts.
Okay, so we've got this really complex picture here.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
The dollar and euro are on top right now, but they have their weaknesses.
Right.
Gold has its appeal, but it's not a perfect solution.
It comes with its own baggage.
And then we have all these other national currencies
Right.
and digital assets like popping up left and right.
It's a changing landscape for
Yeah.
sure.
And I think your sources do a really good job
Yeah.
of laying out this whole, global financial system.
And all the questions it's facing.
Yeah, so here's a final thought for everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
Gold is limited, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's a finite resource.
Yeah.
And the global economy keeps growing.
It keeps growing.
And then you have all these crazy innovations in digital finance.
Yeah, things are moving so fast.
So, like, is the future of global currency stability going to be in, like, a mix of different national currencies?
Mhm.
Or maybe a well-regulated system of digital assets?
Yeah,
Or is it something totally new?
Right,
Like
yeah.
some kind of hybrid approach?
maybe something we haven't even thought of yet.
Right, and what will be the anchor, like
Yeah.
the fundamental anchor of value
Right.
in this increasingly digital and interconnected world?
It's a fascinating question.
It is. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.